So welcome everyone. Welcome to part two in the Mountain Sky series. This is really an opportunity to practice some of the fundamentals of meditation. Last week we looked at, the practice of settling our bodies and minds into the moment. Noticing the body like a mountain, that can be quite a useful metaphor. And the body is like a mountain, and the mind is like the sky surrounding the mountain. So we get a sense of the body being strong, stable, grounded, and we get a sense that the mind is something more clear and spacious. And of course, using this analogy, we notice that clouds then are like thoughts. So thoughts appear, which they inevitably will, and we're encouraged to treat thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. So we just simply pay attention to them, watch them come, watch them go. So taking that metaphor, that analogy, whatever the right way of describing it is, to the next level, occasionally, and this is why I asked if we've all had at least one practice session of meditation, we encounter thoughts. That's a common experience. We get all sorts of thoughts come up about planning about the past, usually past, future. Often there's a slight sort of negative tone to them, but it doesn't have to be. It can be excited about things. Whatever wants to jump in the mind will jump in. And sometimes it's easy to notice that they're just thoughts coming and going, and we can observe them like clouds. Sometimes the weather is a bit stronger. The weather's a bit more difficult. Might consider there being a bit of a storm or a really gloomy day, and we encounter difficulties in our practice. A lot of us, I certainly speak for myself here, we travel through the day at a certain pace, often moving from one thing to the next without really collecting our attention or pausing. And while that can be sort of wonderfully productive, sometimes if we're too busy, we don't get an opportunity to check in with ourselves. And if we're doing that for a long period of time, it can mean that we don't attend to the things that sit under the surface of our minds. So when we do eventually stop, if we're practicing meditation, we often find that some of those difficulties resurface. Some of those emotional or mental difficulties will come up again. And it can, potentially throw us off, especially if what we're looking for is some element of peacefulness or calmness or tranquility, and then we, dedicate this time to practicing meditation, we really want to, get something out of it. And then sometimes when difficulties arise, it can feel like we're doing it wrong. It can be really unsatisfying, and it can, quite simply, it can put us off. We just go, well, I'm not bothering doing that again, because last time I sat down quietly, all my mind did was come up with all this rubbish, or make me focus on things that were difficult in the past or whatever. Now, this is and I did say mental and emotional issues there. This technique can be used as well for physical discomfort. So being that discomfort is part of the scenery, there are some tools that we can use in mindfulness, and a common one is what we call the RAIN meditation. And we've done that here before, but I'll go through the acronym. RAIN stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So it's recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So what we do is once we've settled into a meditation, for example, we have our own practice. We're sitting down to meditate. We start focusing on the breath and we get 5 minutes into the meditation and something really difficult comes up. Maybe it's a memory about something that went on in a relationship or whatever it is. Maybe it's a pain in the leg. Maybe it's just having a really busy mind. Whatever it is, we then can shift our meditation rather than fighting and resisting that experience, rather than beating ourselves up, which is, more common than I'd like to admit, is we attend to the difficulty with compassion, with acceptance. And the RAIN practice allows us to do that. So we recognize what the difficulty is. So this is naming it, labeling it. And a good way of imagining this is as though the difficulty is knocked on the door of your house. Okay, so we go to the door and we see what is there. Who's standing at the door? Is it a bit of anxiety? Is it a physical discomfort? Is it some self-judgment or some anger? So we name it. We say hello. Hello, anger. Hello, anxiety. And when we meet that experience, we may notice there's more visitors as well. We may notice anxiety comes with anger. Maybe anger comes with jealousy. Maybe fear is there as well. So we're open to the possibility that there may be more than one emotional experience happening at the same time. We sometimes say a constellation of emotions, all existing in the same time or field. So we recognize, that's the first step. We recognize the thing for what it is. And we do that without judgment. Taking stock, recognizing that there is a difficulty here, is the first and most powerful step to navigating the difficulty. Because if we're fighting it, resisting it, or denying it, then we end up struggling more than we need to. So we recognize by labeling it. Then we move into allowing. This is the A of RAIN. Allowing, in this analogy, is letting that feeling, that experience into the house. We've answered the door and then we say, come in. And we're inviting that experience to spend some time with us for as long as it needs to. So hello anxiety, hello fear, hello anger. You're welcome. Come and sit a while, come and sit with me. And this has quite often the opposite effect of what we think it would have. We think if we allow ourselves to be angry, then we'd get angrier. And that may happen. But more often than not, and certainly in my own personal experience, whenever I've allowed myself to feel a certain way, then that feeling has started to transform. That feeling has started to soften, and I'm able to sit with it much more easily. So we've recognized, for instance, anger is at the door. We've invited it in, we've allowed it into our space. And we do so without the expectation that it will go, because that's not acceptance, that's not allowing. If I say to my anger, anger, come on in, but you need to leave again straight away, then that isn't allowing. And we certainly can't play shortcut games with these emotions. If we're resisting it on any level, then that is what we'll feel. We will feel resistance. And resistance in the mind is tension in the body. So our next step, once we've recognized, once we've allowed, we investigate. This is the eye of rain. We start to investigate. We do so like a curious scientist, with no preconceptions about why it's here or what's happening. We investigate in a very particular way. We notice it in the body. Where does this experience exist in my body? We notice, where does this experience exist in my emotions? What kind of emotions are associated with it? What kind of other emotions, if the difficulty is an emotion? Investigate it in our thinking. What kind of thoughts are buzzing around this? And then we might look at something like any underlying attitudes or beliefs that might be propping up such an experience. The belief that we should have done something differently, the belief that someone shouldn't have done what they did. And we're not here to blame, we're here to investigate, be curious. And once we've investigated the body, our emotions, the mind, any underlying beliefs, we then move into nurturing. So nurturing is the kind and compassion side of this. And there's a number of ways we can do it. Sometimes just by going through this process can be considered nurturing. Maybe we're invited to smile at our difficulties. Maybe a soothing touch of the hand on the chest. Maybe we can inquire. Ask questions like, is this true? Is it permanent? So this is the rain practice, and I feel like I've explained it enough for us to actually get into it. Now, there's something slightly artificial about practicing this in that we're asked to bring to mind a difficulty. The rain practice itself is something that we meet our difficulties with. So it might be, if you're going through a particularly difficult emotional time, that you want to sit with those emotions and help to process them. And other times it might be that there isn't a difficulty present, and sometimes focusing on one can be unhelpful. So we can actually use rain to focus on positive experiences or neutral experiences as well. So there's no need to dig in to find something to suffer about. But if there is something, in a recent experience that we feel like we'd like to explore with this technique, then that is the invitation for today. Whether it's a physical, mental, or emotional difficulty, I'll just refer to it as a difficulty from now on. So before I begin, has anyone got any questions about that? Okay, then I will begin the meditation. Thanks for listening so far. I'll use the bowl to begin the meditation. Allowing the sound of the bell to reach us where we are. Tuning into the sounds around us in our own spaces. Maybe there's sounds in the room, maybe sounds outside the room, down the street. Just allowing these sounds to arise and fall. And we can begin to follow the breath in and out of the body. So noticing the flow of air coming in the nose and out of the mouth. And watching the natural rhythm of flow, however it is for us, whether it's short or long, rough or smooth. Noticing the weight of the body resting on the ground. Breathing into the body. Noticing the connection of the body with the ground through the seat or through our feet on the floor. And picturing this mountain, the body like a mountain resting solid and free on the ground. The body resting like a mountain, breathing, and the mind clear and spacious like the sky around a mountain. Noticing the clouds. Thoughts like clouds appearing in the sky. And occasionally the mind will run in or run off with thoughts. We start thinking, start getting involved. And then we remember that we're here to meditate, here to practice mindfulness, so we let go of that thought no matter what it is. doesn't matter. We gently return our attention to the breath, to the breathing body, resting like a mountain on the ground. Aware of the clear sky of the mind. The clear sky of awareness, observing thoughts, observing sensations. Noticing our awareness doesn't resist anything. And if the mind is particularly busy, we may find some benefit from deepening the breath. Feeling the expansion of the breath, creating space. And feeling the body and mind relax as we let go of the breath. Expanding and relaxing. And at any point during this practice that the mind wanders, our only job is to notice and to return the breath back to, return our attention back to the breath, back to the breathing body. We do so with kindness, forgiveness, patience. And at this point, we're asked to check in. What's going on for us in this moment? What is this experience? How do we feel? Is there a difficult emotion? Are there some difficult thoughts? A difficult memory, perhaps? Maybe a increased self-judgment or some burden of blame. So we're simply here, we're breathing with the body, body resting like a mountain on the ground, mind clear like the sky. And we're asking, how are we doing right now? What is going on? And there may be some difficulty present. There may be some peace present. whatever this experience is, we're going to recognize it with the R of rain. We're going to recognize what is here now. What is this experience? Is there some anxiety at the door? Is there some form of fear? Is there some physical discomfort? Maybe it's the mind, the activity of the mind that feels uncomfortable. Maybe there's a neutralness going on. So we name this. It's like answering the door. Hello, difficulty. Hello, experience. Do our best to label it. Sometimes there aren't even the right words, so just seeing it is enough. And we're invited to allow. This is the A of rain. Allowing this experience to be here. Whatever it is, can we give it space? We let this difficulty in. And we sit with it and we breathe alongside it. And it's okay for other experiences or emotions to come in. We give space to these experiences as well. And we give them permission to be here. We give ourselves total permission to be this way for as long as we need to. Noticing if there's any resistance or difficulties to this process. And returning to the breath, we begin to investigate. Where does this difficulty exist in the body? What is the physical presence of this? If it itself is a physical discomfort, where in the body is it? What kind of shape and size is it? Is it an emotion that we feel in the torso somewhere, in the chest or the belly or the back? Maybe we notice tension or butterflies. And we breathe alongside the physical side of this experience, the sensations. And we allow these to be here as a valid part of our experience. And we can spend as long as we need to with the physical side, or we can move toward the emotional content of this experience. How might we feel into the emotional body? Noticing if there's more than one emotion, maybe there's several, maybe there's none. So we're invited to breathe alongside any emotions that we're feeling here, and it's okay if we don't have the words to describe. We're just doing our best to sit with the emotional content of this experience. Breathing with it, giving it space, giving ourselves permission to feel this. And then moving into the mental realm, the thoughts associated with this experience. It might seem like an inner voice or a story or narrative going on. What are we saying about this experience? In what way are we describing this to ourselves? Not always easy to tune in, but sometimes we can just pick up. Oh, I'm telling myself I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I'm blaming somebody, or whatever the description is perfectly okay. We're simply noticing it with curiosity, with awareness. And we're accepting that this is the current state of things. This is how the mind is right now. And the mind produces thoughts and thinking in the same way that the belly digests food, in the same way that The heart pumps blood. And we can see the paradox or contradiction that this is indeed an intimate and personal experience. Yet it's also very automatic. It's just happening by itself. And here we move into investigating any underlying beliefs, any underlying attitudes that might be propping up this experience. Noticing that. What am I believing about myself or someone or something else? And this moves us nicely into the N of rain, which is nurturing. We may bring in some forgiveness to ourselves or someone else. We may invite the body to soften. We may place our hand on our chest and feel the contact, the warmth of our own touch. And inquiring, is this story or this experience, is it true? I'm not looking for any particular answer, just whatever comes up. Is it one-sided, or is there another perspective to it? How might we treat a close friend or loved one going through this particular experience? Is this experience permanent? Is this who I am, or is this just part of my experience? And asking our heart, not our minds, is there any action I need to take? And feeling the response. What would a wise person do in this situation? As we approach the end of this meditation, we're invited to sit in some silence for a few moments, allowing ourselves to rest with no agenda, no direction, no boundaries. And as we tune into the sound of the bell, signaling the end of the meditation, we're invited to start to move the body in a way that feels nourishing. May involve a little stretch or a wiggle of the fingers and toes. Maybe that we stand up and have a little walk around. Whatever feels good for you.